Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Aussie Starcraft. We've been bringing you some of the great games from Dreamhack Winter that took place this month. This time we're bringing you a series of games, our best of 3 series, from the round of 8 in the winners bracket of Dreamhack Winter. So in this game, the top of the left hand corner is our red Terran player. It is Liquid Taeja in the bottom right hand corner. It is our blue Protoss player, Liquid Hero. So it is Taeja versus Hero from Team Liquid. So there's both good news and bad news in this, that someone from Team Liquid will progress, but unfortunately one of these players will get knocked out and fall to the losers bracket. So we'll see whether it'll be Liquid, Taeja or Hero that will progress in this tournament. Of course, both these players are very familiar with each other. They practice against each other quite frequently, so it'll be very interesting what sort of shenanigans they bring for us here on Acheron Waste. So Acheron Waste, very old map in the map pool. Everyone, I think, is fairly familiar with it. Presents some interesting strengths and weaknesses for both these races. Terran have some advantages in that they have some considerable drop lanes into the main base of their opponent. So Taeja could drop in along the base side or drop into the natural and or the main of Liquid Hero. From the Protoss perspective, naturally they can do the same sort of warp, prism, harass that a Terran can do drops. In addition, this map's fairly popular for Protoss players because they can take an easy third base, and Protoss is generally about taking and holding your third base. Most builds from other races tend to focus on denying that third Protoss base, so a map like Acheron Waste, where the Protoss player can secure their natural here and then destroy and collapse those rocks to take an easy third base, makes for a very easy Protoss turtle. Well, not easy, but the Protoss player can turtle quite well and then build up those death balls that we're used to seeing, things like late game units like Colossi, High Templar. All of those sorts of things become much easier to afford on 3 bases. It looks like Liquid Hero's going for a fairly standard sort of gateway opening. Nothing too different or special about what Hero is doing in this game. Taeja likewise grabbing his gas. Now his barracks almost finished up. Terran players tend to go a bio mix versus Protoss. Things like mech not as feasible against Protoss and their immortals. But well, we certainly haven't seen a lot of it even in the post-patch environment. So it's still Protoss players still tend to favour those immortals, which will just crush right through a siege tank line. But you know, Terran players, the biomix still very potent, particularly from the 11-minute mark onwards when they have their 2-2 upgrades and things like Stimpack finished up. Very consistently powerful in the mid-game against Protoss forces. So Cybercore just finishing up now for Hero, and we'll be able to see what style he decides to elect for in this opening. He is already moving out with a Zealot. This is probably to punish any early greed on the part of Liquid Taeja. Terran players do tend to go for a very quick command center on this map, but as we can see here, I already chrono boosting out his mothership core and producing a stalker out of the gateway. So you have these 3 units to be quite aggressive with, while Taeja goes for this early reactor. So there's literally only 2 defensive units on the map. This bunker's under construction now. It should be finished by the time this Zealot and mothership core can make its way across the map, but Hero is still able to do quite a lot of damage with these early units. So we'll see what he's able to accomplish. This reactor is still under construction, so that'll be out of play for another 20 seconds. So it looks like it will be these early 3 units against a pair of Marines in a bunker. So we'll see if Hero is able to put any aggression on here. Gonna pull that Zealot back just to try and recover its shields while it waits for the other units. Second Stalker being chrono boosted on the back of this, and a factory on the way for Taeja. So Widow Mine's very good against Protoss units. That bonus damage against shields, very useful. A Widow Mine will one-shot a Stalk, which is a very cost-effective way to keep a Protoss player away from your base early on in the game. We have Hero trying to force this scouting SCV back, as well as try and place some pressure on with these first units. He could well just run straight by this bunker, and it looks like he may actually be intending to do just that. And that's going to allow him to be a bit of a punk with these supply depots. He could do things like damage these supply depots at the top of the ramp, particularly with the mothership core here. Looks like Taeja's going to pull his units out of the bunker. Nice control from Hero, just using the zealots to tank as much damage as possible. Taeja though microing quite well here. Looks like these Protoss units are getting forced back into the corner. Hero unfortunately unable to save the Stalker. Is going to mass recall out of there to save the Stalker. So nice choice from Hero, but also one that brings with it some unwelcome consequences. You'll see Mothership Core is down to 13 energy, which means it will be at least 3 minutes before it can muster the energy needed to do a photon overcharge, which can actually be quite important against early aggression. You can see Taeja hasn't ceased producing units. Now got 7 Marines on the field, another 2 to come takes 9, and a Widow Mine. So that's actually quite a lot of early aggressive units that can start to put pressure on Liquid Hero here. Hero going for his expansion now. You can see Taeja actually electing to move out with these Marines already, but Hero's aware that this is quite a popular follow-up for Terran players, particularly when they've got so many units on the field. If Hero micros this well, he can actually pick down and wear through a few of these Marines before they can actually make it to his base. So he'll be endeavouring to do that, to make life just a bit more difficult for Taeja. If he can do enough damage to these Marines, he'll stop this first push in its tracks, and won't have to rely on things like the Mothership Core and Photon Overcharge to try and defend his base. So a Widow Mine is now on the way, and that's quite a potent addition to this force. It will one-shot one of these Stalkers. In the way of tech, we have Hero adding on a robotics bay here, and throwing down a pylon and another gateway. So just trying to round out his production structures. Taeja, on the other hand, deciding to fall back with these group of Marines. They've been sufficiently worn down to make them a little bit less viable on the offensive. So Taeja's going to fall back and begin establishing his orbital command in his natural, and going to get mining things underway there. So production facilities now on the way for Taeja, throwing down another pair of barracks now that he can support a bit more production. I have 2 Widow Mines now moving out with this group of Marines. In the way of defense, we only have 3 Stalkers and a Mothership Core, so this could get just a little bit hairy for Hero in a few moments. Taeja now lifting up for a potential drop into the main base. Medevac moving out here. You see the Stalkers already in position, the Observer there as well to detect those Widow Mines, but there are still a few Marines that could threaten this front door. 4 Marines are enough to pick off a Mothership Core, particularly if Hero's distracted elsewhere. Oh, clever move from Taeja. He's going to drop the Widow Mines at the top of the main ramp. That's going to prevent the Stalkers from being able to reinforce as quickly, and the Observer is going to pick up that Widow Mine, but not before it gets a single kill. Taeja's going to muscle his way into the front base. There is another Widow Mine here at the top of the ramp, but Photon Overcharge is going to force these units away. Taeja going to pick up there and evacuate. So if we look at the units lost tab, fairly even, 350 to 425. So no, I liked Taeja's thinking there, but unfortunately Hero already having his Observer out and in play did mitigate some of the damage those Widow Mines otherwise might have done. Scan going down there for Taeja, just taking a look at what Hero's doing, if he's thrown down any additional tech structures. Hero just content to continue producing, chrono boosting out probes, trying to get up his income as quickly as possible. In that respect, he may be just ahead of Taeja, which he is. 4 workers ahead of Taeja's pretty nice place to be. Of course, that will be equalised out by things like the mules. We have a fairly even game on our hands. Looks like Hero's actually going for Blink now, so a bit of Blink Stalker play potentially occurring. There's a great map for it. You can blink straight up into the main base, particularly if you've already got Observers in play like Hero does. So could well use that Blink action to harass either the main base or this natural expansion. Things like this bunker are great for defense, but not great for protecting these Marines once they move out of it. So a scan there to pick off an Observer is a nice call from Taeja. Always good to deny some of that vision. Hero though, second Observer already on the field, and now producing a few more gateways along with the robotics bay to produce some Colossi. So fairly aggressive opening from both these players, both trying to get the upper hand in the early stages of the map, despite the fact that the map does allow for quite an easy macro game. Both these players electing to go highly aggressive. Widow Mine in the expansion of Taeja, gonna detonate and pick off one of those workers, but Taeja Hero very aware of that mine and is going to move the rest of them away. We should see the observer momentarily move out to try and detect that and pick it off, though currently the observer seems to be scouting out for potential aggression, so this Widow Mine, oh no, second observer has come in and that Widow Mine will get picked off before it can detonate again. So one probe on a Widow Mine, not cost effective at all. The Widow Mine itself costing 100 resources, a single worker costing 50. So whenever you do see one of those Widow Mines dropping near your mineral line, if you can do what Hero did, try and get the rest of your workers out of the way so it doesn't multi-shot 4 or 5 or 6 probes, and just sacrifice a single one while you stall for time. There's a big force moving out from Taeja here. Marauders and Stimpack almost finished up. I'm surprised he's hitting before Stimpack's finished. About 15 seconds left on that Stimpack. 1-1 also almost finished up for Taeja, so it's quite a nice home attack. As you can see, 11 minutes, we have 1-1 finishing. Stimpack also almost complete, as well as consistent medevac production. So you can see Taeja using that medevac that was produced to ferry down some marauders, and there's a substantial force here. We do have Blink Sawyers, and it looks like Taeja is actually going to block the ramp with his factory. That's a bit of cheeky play. This is going to pin the stalkers on the high ground between the factory and the force field. They actually can't make it out. Looks like Taeja is going to be able to pick off both the mothership core, and he may even snipe this Nexus, though. Colossi is moving down. Nice force fields from Hero are going to allow him to force back this Protoss army. Unfortunately, the Colossus doesn't have extended thermal lance, but is continuing to do heavy damage to these marauders. Nexus up to 6 kills already. This Colossi having to kite back. Looks like Taeja is going to do a hot pickup and get out of there with his remaining units. Probes obviously forced off the line to try and help defend this. We have a Widow Mine coming out of his factory, being produced literally in the middle of that conflict. Widow Mine, is it going to get to burrow? Yes, it is actually going to. Oh no, picked off just before it is able to detonate. Luckily for this observer there, that Protoss forces could continue to see that. The Nexus actually managed to get 7 kills. That photon overcharge was active for the entire duration there. But Hero continuing to try and hold on by the skin of his teeth. Unfortunately, no mothership core, and these marauders just consistently able to pick off these sentries. Looking very grim for Hero now as Taeja muscles his way into this expansion. Gonna snipe the Nexus, and this could well be the end of game 1 for Hero. Big power push from Liquid. Taeja is going to snipe the remaining probes here as they try and fall back. We don't mind trying to burrow before these probes can make it past. They will make it through safely, but Hero will be forced to GG out of that game. So excellent game 1 from both these players. Taeja able to get the upper hand there. Time attack so difficult to deal with for Protoss, particularly when you've spent a lot of your energy on things like the early mass recall. So Hero there, unfortunately unable to pull off a win against Taeja. Taeja will take the lead 1-0 in this series, but we'll see if Hero can equalise it in game number 2. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next cast.